State down in Florida is none other than Lionel Shipman. He's the president and an empowerment consultant. And as an empowerment consultant, Lionel facilitates seminars and workshops in the areas of financial literacy, business, banking, and life skills for churches, businesses, high school, and colleges. He also is an engaging speaker for those conferences, those workshops, those seminars, panel discussions, assemblies, motivational sessions, and other events. And what Mr. Shipman and I have in common is both of us host radio shows, as he's also the host of a radio show in his area on financial advice, as well as we are in the greatest fraternity in the world. Now, I know some are going to disagree with that, but we are in the greatest fraternity in the world, which is none other than Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So I'm asking you to welcome to the Reading Circle microphones my brother, Mr. Lionel Shipman. Mr. Shipman, good morning.
Morning, Frat. Mark, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right.
Hey, 06 is in the house.
Yes, indeed.
06 is in the house.
That's right. 06 is in the house.
Absolutely. Mark, it's good to be here, brother. And thank you so much for allowing me to be here on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, I thank you for rising early to join me, and I'm glad you're still on the East Coast with us, because a lot of times many of my guests are calling from the West Coast, and we're 2 or 3 hours behind them. So when it's 7 o'clock here, it's like 4 o'clock there. And at one point, I used to do my guests in the 6 o'clock hour. For many years, the guests called in at 6 o'clock, so it would be 3 o'clock in the morning for those that were calling from the West Coast. But I'm glad that you got up, because not only the things that I read to you about in terms of Lionel, he's also an author, hence being on the Reading Circle this morning. And he's written the book Sacred Vows, The Knot, and I always love a play on words. The Knot, K-N-O-T, or Not, N-O-T. And that is the title of his book, and we'll be talking about that and many other things throughout the hour or so that we're on the air together. And I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit about the book from what I see here on Amazon, the description there. 2 of the biggest challenges facing many people today are 1, finding a compatible mate with similar values and beliefs, and 2, maintaining a healthy and loving marital relationship. This book is unique because it goes beyond giving you relationship advice. It helps couples seeking to be married face the realities of marriage and family by taking them through a journey of real-life questions that opens the door of effective communication. It also helps married couples with effective communication by revisiting problem areas of the relationship that they may be facing. The book causes you to answer the tough questions of your relationship, and that's quote-unquote behind the word tough. Does it have all of the answers? No. Does it address every issue or problem? No. Will it determine the fate of your relationship? No. That's for you and your potential mate or spouse to decide. So we're going to be talking about that, as well as his financial background, because, see, let me tell you why this is a big deal, Lionel. And sadly, in this country, you're doing 2 things that not necessarily associated with African-American men. 1, you wrote a book about marriage. And secondly, you're in the financial sector. So let's kind of work our way where the 2 merge and mesh, kind of work our way up to how you got to where you've gotten to. Where did the writing begin? Where did the finances begin? How did this all start?
How did it all start? Let me go back to, and really not to make us laugh, but let's go back to high school.
Oh, that's where I usually start from. I mean, sometimes, especially with the writing piece, whenever I interview authors, I ask, is that something you always love to do? Was it something in grade school, high school, college? Where did the writing piece come from? But, I mean, the finance piece, the writing piece, all of it. If it started in high school, great.
Well, brother, let me say this. I did not like writing. It was not my passion at all. When I was back in high school, I did the writing because I had to earn the grade. And I did well in high school and all, did well in college. But I had a tough time, speaking with my teachers in high school as well as my professors in college, because I did not like writing. I mean, when I got to college, my BS degree is in computer science. So my theory is, let me just get into my classes so I can graduate and get out and start working, because writing was not one of those things that I enjoyed doing. Now, at the same time, I learned how to write. So let me keep that in mind, that I knew the structure of writing and all the different tools and things that you need to do when you start writing. So when I started my career in banking some years ago, I was what they call a commercial analyst. I did underwriting of financial type transactions on the commercial side of the bank. And then I became a retail banking center manager, where I actually had my own retail banking office. Well, from that is where I would say that I started developing a love for writing. And it really stemmed from the financial background. So I started doing just some small little paragraphs of, my thoughts behind, money, my thoughts behind, how to manage it, especially based upon my own experience. So I, as years progressed and the internet and, all of the social media outlets began to come up, I said, well, let me throw some of my writing in the hat. So I started doing just some small little, quotes or small topics that I started to address. And the biggest, I say the push that came was back, my wife, she's a nurse, and she gets these nursing magazines every month. So I would pick them up and read them. And, I noticed that there was nothing financially related in these magazines. So I told my wife, I said, baby, well, why don't, you guys have something in these magazines that, financial related, because finances and money affect everyone.
Right.
So, and getting to know my wife, her response was, well, why don't you contact the editor? So I said, you know what? I will. So I reached out, sent an email to the editor, and said, I'm not in the field of health and nursing. I said, but I read the magazine, and I noticed that you don't have anything money related or financial related in the magazine. And she said, well, will you send me some of your work? Now, let's go back to the beginning.
Right.
I don't necessarily like writing, but bro, I did not have any material handy.
Right.
I said, well, give me a couple days. So I got pen and pad, and I went to writing. I thought of two big topics that I would consider to be very important. I remember the first one was called "Getting Your Financial House in Order."
Right.
So I did about 3 paragraphs off of that, attached it to an email, sent it to her. Lo and behold, Mark, about a couple of days later, she sent me a contract and said, when can you start writing for our magazine?
Wow.
Yeah. So ever since then, I've done a few other magazines where I've done a financial column. And up to this point, of course, I've done a lot on LinkedIn and other type of social media sites, and actually put together a lot of seminars and workshops based upon that. So that's where it all began, from somebody who really didn't like writing in the beginning, but developed a passion for it, primarily because it's in the field that I'm in.
Exactly. And see, I sat there and I listened to you as you told that, and you took me all the way back to my college days, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm the reverse. I can do math. I don't necessarily take great pleasure in figuring out mathematical calculations and so forth. But one of my best friends in college was like you. He didn't like the language arts piece or the writing piece. So the two of us got together, and we got each other through school. I would do all the writing assignments. He would do all the math assignments. And then we trade off.
Oh, man.
and that got us through, because he would, all of our finance, because I was in business, my undergrad was business administration. So all those finance courses and money and banking and all those, he helped me out with, and all the courses, the marketing courses where we had to write, I helped him out. And that's what got us through. And generally, because now, ultimately, I did do 15 years in corporate America in the business world. in marketing, but I ultimately left that and went back into education, which was really my first love. And I'm an educator now. Whenever I'm not doing radio, my day job is being a principal of a school. And generally, what I find is people kind of have a bent one way or the other. Like the kids who are really good in language arts are so-so in math, and the kids who are really good in math are so-so in language arts. So to hear you say what you were saying didn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah, okay.
But the other piece that is key is that what you said was, I learned the skill.
Yeah.
That was the key there.
Yeah, and I wasn't afraid to do it. And,
right.
Almost with anything in my life, and especially as I've gotten more mature, I'm not going to say older.
I know that's right. Our words have power. I'm with you there.
Yeah. So I've learned that, that don't be afraid to try something you've never done before. And if you fail at a particular thing, get up and realize what you've learned from it. You've learned what not to do, and now you're learning what to do to progress forward and move forward.
Right.
And, when I first started writing, it wasn't good. I know it wasn't good. I mean, I had great information. I could talk about it, but to put it in a writing form, I had to learn that and somewhat perfect that skill a little bit. So I improved each time I would write. The editor was so gracious. They would send it back, make the recommended changes, and then I okay it, and then it was published. So I was able to overcome that now, that I'm very comfortable now, with writing. I know what I'm trying to say. I know how to structure it. And in today's time, you got to add a little twist on it because of just where we are in life now. You don't necessarily have to delve too deep into it, but you need to give people something that they can remember from it.
Absolutely.
That's what I try to do. Yeah. And when I got into the marriage piece, you mentioned earlier, about the finance piece and the marriage piece, especially for in the African-American community, and definitely being an African-American male. Those are just two things that you got involved in, but nobody really taught you how.
Right. Right.
So which is one reason why, I wrote the book. But I got 19 plus years of marriage. I'll say happily married years on the
right.
Have a great, great wife, two wonderful children. And, it hadn't always been rainy, but I can say that we've had more sunshine days than any other type of rainy days. So those are two big topics, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation about both of those.
I'm glad we are too, and I'll tell you why. Because, again, the myth in this country, or might even be around the world, is that, first off, all African-American men, for the most part, are either somebody baby daddy, but they ain't necessarily a husband, or either we hanging out on the corner selling drugs or taking drugs or what have you. Certainly not one who is writing books about marriage and talking finances. So that's why I'm glad we're having this discussion as well. And for those of you in the listening audience, make sure you get somebody to log on to gobrave.org, or if they're in the northern New Jersey area, they can hear us on FM radio on 88.7 FM. But it is an encouraging and inspiring discussion because, again, like so many other guests that I've had, it challenges the myths. And in 2018, with who we have leading us, who is perpetuating myths such as what I talked about a couple of seconds ago, we need to hear folks who are saying, no, that's not right. And I'll tell you why it's not right, because I'm doing it, just as you just heard Lionel say. I just finished reading a book called Why Not You? The Old Man's Guide to Prosperity. And the author of that book is Art Merrill. And it's a cute little book because it's a story, but it's about finances. And in that book, Art says the same thing that Harry, what's his name? Kiyosaki. I'm trying to think of his first name. He wrote the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. But there's something that comes out of this book, the Why Not You, and a few other books that I've read in terms of the financial piece. And I just told you, Lionel, that I'm the principal in the school. But what fascinates me is the thing that we use the most, which is money and finance. It's not in educational curriculums. We need to be talking about money and finance in kindergarten.
I agree. As a matter of fact, here in Tampa, in the Bay Area of Tampa, or even here in Florida, we are trying to get or make a financial course as part of the curriculum, especially for high school students. But I agree, it would be best if we start earlier. I know I started both my girls, I have two teenage daughters,
Right.
and I started them with knowledge of money and finance when they were maybe around 6 or 7 years old.
Right.
I mean, no, they don't need to know the terms of CDs and IRAs and investments and securities, but you can start teaching even our children at a younger age about money and what it's used for and how it's used in the household. And you can start teaching them about, even with their allowance.
Right.
We work so we can get paid. That's a principle of life.
Right.
So I started teaching my kids early on. I didn't just give them money just for an allowance. Yeah, baby, you keep your room clean and you pick up your toys, you can get $1 or $2.
Right.
If you do that consistently on a weekly basis, then they're learning, okay, I can associate work with money. Now, of course, there are times when we would give them, money for birthdays and things like that.
Absolutely.
You start giving them those principles early on, and then as they grow, and especially from an education standpoint, I'm part of the Academy of Finance here in the Bay Area. I'm on the advisory committee, and it is a program geared toward high school students.
Oh, good for you.
Starting from your freshman year throughout your senior year of high school. And the program directors, they teach our kids, our students about international business, finance, economics. They learn to do projects built around financial ethics and empowerment. Then they also teach them about life skills. So some of the schools have some things in place, but as far as the majority, you're right. We need to have personal financial classes as a curriculum, mandatory curriculum.
Yes.
In our school.
Yes.
Everywhere.
The same way we have math, language arts, social studies, science, finance needs to be put in there as well. And like I said, you may not in the lower grades necessarily have to get into the nits and gnats of IRAs and Roth and all that. But the principles, I agree with you and I'll tell you why it's such an issue for me, because like I said, it's the thing that we do and use ultimately the most, but it's also the thing that's the most mismanaged.
Absolutely. I look at myself personally. When I graduated college, Mark, computer science degree, born and raised in Alabama, and then I moved to Florida. So I only had two good principles that I picked up from my parents. And this is no hit against my parents, because if they were never taught, how can they teach me?
Exactly.
So here it is. I can hear my dad still telling me right now, don't live a champagne life on a beer budget. And I can hear my mom telling me about do not spend more money than you earn.
Right.
Now, those are two basic principles that I didn't even think about until I got down here in Florida and I started getting into finance. But when I graduated college, thankfully, I didn't have any student debt. But I had 5 or 6 credit cards.
Right.
And they all had balances on them. And I thought it was almost like free money when I first got it, because, you go down to the rec center.
Right.
You got the free T-shirts, and you sign up, and they make it all go, oh, yeah, we'll start you out with $500, no dollar limit. And, and I got the card, going out spending, taking all my brothers out, let's go out to eat, man.
Right.
Swiping the card, and didn't realize when those bills started coming in my name, they didn't come in my parents' name. They came in my name.
That's right.
So I had no clue. I'm paying the minimum payment and didn't realize that out of that $20 a month, only maybe $11
right.
going toward the principal. But I'm paying $9 of interest.
Right.
And that's just money to the credit card company.
Right.
So I started to pick up on all of this, and knowing that there are so many different students coming out of high school, going into college with no mindset regarding money. They go to college. They may pick up some, but not enough. Then when they start their lives, they're in debt. They don't know how to manage their money. And, the beginning part of their life is a lot rougher than what it could be or should be.
No, absolutely right. And see, from the marketing perspective, the marketeers know exactly what you just said, and they write that copy and send those cards out, and they become so attractive. And now I'm a college student who is not accustomed to doing anything with money. All of a sudden, like you said, I got what feels like free money.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, go buck wild, yes.
Yeah. Restaurant clothes. I had plenty of that. I had plenty of clothes. I went to, any restaurant that I wanted to go to, any type of event. Yeah, I can charge it. I pay for it later.
Right.
And then realize that later was right around the door. Right around the corner. And so, when I think about when I had those 5 credit cards, I decided, you know what, I need to do something with these credit cards because now I'm in banking. I'm learning how to manage debt. I'm teaching people how to manage debt. So I said, I need to get my own financial house in order. And I began to read. I began to learn. And I began to apply those principles to my own life. And once I started doing that, my life financially changed.
Wow.
But until we change our mindset, until we are willing to admit that, you know what, I don't know anything about how to manage money. Until we get to that point to where we have surrendered to say, you know what, I need to learn.
Right.
I thought I knew, cast aside the ego, and especially men, because we have a tendency to think that we know everything and don't want to admit that we don't know.
Correct.
And I talked about that on a show one time that, a lot of times, especially in relationships, men think that we know it all, and, we convince our wives or we convince our fiancés that, hey, I got this money thing down pat, and then as life happens, they're clueless.
I'm sitting.
And a lot of it is just because we haven't been taught.
That's correct.
Or we have not taken advantage of learning that skill because, ego, whatever it is, we have to get that in our heads that this is something that I need to learn to change my life today, but also change my life tomorrow.
And you're absolutely right. I was laughing with the mic button off whenever you were saying that about we men knowing everything, because I always tease my wife and other women. I said, let me tell you something. GPS was the greatest thing that happened for men. Because you know how they always tease the men, but we don't like to stop and ask for directions. Now, see, men, we'll listen to the GPS.
Yeah.
I said, that's one of the best things that could happen. We don't have to stop to ask anybody for directions, but at the same time, somebody's giving us directions. Now, it's the same concept. The GPS is the same concept as stopping and asking somebody for directions, but it's just that, so I laugh when it's the same thing with the finances. And oddly enough, that book that I just referenced, the Why Not You, he gets into that whole thing about it's just like learning Spanish or French or anything else. Finances have their own language. And once you learn the language, you can maneuver through it. Just like if you learn Spanish, you can speak in a Spanish-speaking country.
Yes.
And a lot of us, like you just said, are not willing to learn that language.
Yeah, if you're going to survive, if you're going to have a retirement or a future, and especially in today's time, because, that mindset of years ago, I can rely on my pension,
right,
I can rely on Social Security. You better not wait for that.
It's true.
The way things are going, you're gonna be socially insecure.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So it's best to start learning and applying these principles now. And it's almost like that buzzword, not buzzword, the financial term, budgeting.
Right.
A lot of people look at that as a bad taboo word. I don't want to hear anything about budgeting because it's going to tell me what I can't do.
Right.
Well, I look at that as the flip side. Budgeting tells me what I can do with my money, and it helps me control how I manage and how I spend my money. I don't want a company or a commercial telling me how to spend my money.
Right. That's a good point.
Because we've been doing, we have been, our mindset has been that way since we were kids.
Right.
When you look at television, a lot of the commercials, and even when you go in the stores, they're set up to tell us what to do with our money. And people don't catch that. I mean, why do you think that the candy and all is eye level
Right.
at the counter?
Correct.
It's there for it's psychological. It's there for a purpose. So, and then when you get commercials that tell you, just say a car commercial.
Right.
It tells you, how good it looks and how good it'll look on you or as you're driving it, and you deserve it. You can do it right now. Zero money down. No finance. They give you all these things, and I'm not saying that those things are bad because that's marketing. They have a right to market their product.
Right.
But at the same time, we have to do what's in our best interest, not necessarily what's in their best interest.
Correct.
When it comes to our money and our finances. So people have it twisted, and that's been my passion and my goal is to try to help as many people as I can, not to kill dreams by any stretch of imagination. I'm not telling you that you'll never do whatever, but I am telling you if you apply sound financial principles to your life, you can enjoy life to the fullest.
Absolutely.
I'm a witness to it.
I read something the other day. It was another, because one of the things I love about reading is a lot of times, at least for me, and I think for most people, it will provide insights of things that you already know a little something about, but it provides a different view or a different angle. Like just like you just saying a couple of minutes ago about, I want to be in control of my money. I don't want some company telling me how to spend my money. And that's really what advertising and marketing is all about, is the company trying to get your money. But
right.
I was reading something the other day that was saying our tax system really is designed to encourage more people to become rich, because the more money you make, the better the tax system works with you, and the less money that you make, especially if you're in the middle class, the tax system kind of is designed to encourage you. Like if you might want to get out of the middle class so that you can get in this higher tax bracket or higher money making bracket where you pay less taxes. And so I never thought about it. Like the tax system in and of itself is designed for us to be rich.
Yeah, because it sure ain't designed for you to be poor.
No, it's not. And see, but it's not. But most people don't look at taxes and like the system in that matter when you start talking about the different brackets. But the author was saying that the tax system is really designed to get more people into the rich bracket, to encourage more people to become wealthy. I said, well, I never looked at it that way.
If you don't have that mindset, and if you're not willing to, delay some gratification,
right?
You can't always buy and get what you want right then and there. I here recently, I just had to get a new car.
Right.
I'm a long-standing. When I buy a vehicle, I hold on to it for a long time.
That's two of us, brother. That's two of us.
Yeah.
Like it almost doesn't roll anymore.
Exactly. So I had to break down. Especially when your wife tells you, "Baby, you need to get a new car." It's time when your wife tells you that. So, and then my kids calling my truck a dinosaur. So it's like, okay, this truck it is older than you, baby, but this truck has been my baby here. So, but even with that, I had to make sure, at this stage of my life, I have a junior and senior in high school.
Right.
So they're going to be going to college in the next 2 to 3 years. I don't need to go out. It would be nice to go out because my dream car, Mark. Let me say this: my dream car for me and my wife. I want a convertible Mercedes-Benz.
All right, now
somewhere in that neighborhood. Just something that we can just throw a bag in the back.
Right.
Let the top down.
Right. Especially down in Florida. That's right.
Yeah. And drive and go wherever we want to. I said, but right now, I know, I could afford it.
Right.
But I can't afford it.
Right.
So I made the decision, you know what? I'm going to get a reasonable automobile for myself right now. and drive it until the wheels fall off again.
Right.
Because if we have to go anywhere, we're not big drivers anyway, my wife and I.
Right.
Because if it's beyond 3 hours, we're gonna get on the airplane. So the car thing, it doesn't matter necessarily
Right.
to me now. So I know how to control my finances.
Right.
About that. And so now, when it comes to any other type of purchases, clothes and things like that, I've learned I can yet have the best, wear the best, and go to the best places, but I don't have to spend my money irresponsibly to get there.
That's correct. And see, that's a lesson as well. And see, that's where, unfortunately, too many, and I always couch my commentary in terms of, because I really do want it to be educational. And since I am African American, I really do want other African Americans to be enlightened as well. Not that I don't want any other race not to be enlightened also, but I do know what I see within our own race. And there are too many of us who do the exact opposite of what you said, that we have the least amount of money and go out and buy the most expensive thing, trying to appear as if we have something that we don't have. I mean, we really do make some stupid decisions in terms of, I live in an apartment, but I got the Mercedes-Benz parked outside in the apartment parking lot.
Yes. Now, see, you're going to get people upset with you, Mark.
That's all right. Won't be the first time. But I mean, really, when you, why not take that money that you put in the Mercedes or in the rims and invest in a house?
Yes. You know what? It's funny you would say that. I do a couple of years ago, I did some mini videos that I call financially trifling.
Right. There you go. That's right.
And I did like a little, like a top 10, like a David Letterman top 10.
Right.
So I did several of those videos. So now I'm reposting some of those through social media. And when you said about the rim, I put out one that states that you're financially trifling when the rims of your car is the most expensive thing on your car. On the car. The rims and the radio. Yeah. That's right. The speakers. Because that's so funny you say that, because I've actually pulled up beside cars with these blaring speakers and thought to myself, wow, the sound system is worth more than the car. Yes, absolutely. Or you have an expensive purse. Right. But you have no money to put in it. Exactly. I mean, it goes beyond it. And it's sad to say, and I'm with you, not to exclude any other culture, because money applies to all cultures. Exactly. But because we're African American, it's a huge problem that I see. I've observed it for years, and have been trying to change the mindset of our sisters and our brothers regarding money. Right. And when you look at the what they call the wealth gap. Right. The wealth gap between African, I just say minorities and our counterpart whites has been steadily widening. Right. It's been widening and increasing over the years, regardless of the prosperity of some that are going on in our communities, but the gap is steadily increasing. So that's a problem. It is a problem, and that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, and I'm going to pivot in a couple of minutes to the book as well, because they're related. But it is a problem, and as I said earlier, I'm a principal, and in the community that I serve, it is a very economically challenged area of our city. Matter of fact, it's the lowest economic area in the city. And I deal with families and children every day. And I know the psychology behind it, because I've read the psychology of poverty and so forth and so on. I get it. People want to feel like they can get something. But we have children coming in with $200 Jordans and won't buy a 25-cent pencil. Yes. Yeah. And parents will justify it. I mean, they will come in looking for us to give book bags and school supplies while they've just gone out and spent $200 on a pair of Jordans. And that's not exaggerated. That's real. I mean, last year we had I had a situation last year where the children, the 8th graders misbehaved so badly throughout the year that for the first time in my career, all of their privileges were taken. That included their little graduation ceremony and everything.
So we did have a ceremony. It was a no frills graduation ceremony. In other words, we didn't do pomp and circumstance. We didn't do caps and gowns in it. But we did say, all right, we're going to have a ceremony, and we would like the young men to wear a shirt, preferably a tie, dark pants, and shoes. I had a mother come in and tell me she wasn't going to purchase those items because she had just spent the money on a block party for this child. Mind you, this is a child that had failed most of his courses, had been one of the ones who was misbehaving, why we didn't have the graduation ceremony to begin with. And she now goes out and says, I'm not going to get him shoes, pants, shirt, and tie because I've spent that money on a block party for him since you all didn't have your dinner dance. And I mean, this is real life. This is not made up. This is not reality TV. This is real life, what I deal with on a daily basis. So I'm saying all that to say, when we're trying to enlighten and encourage and educate our African-American brothers and sisters, we know what we see. And like you said, it is sad.
Absolutely. Because those are what I call misplaced priorities.
Yes, bingo. That's exactly what it is. Bingo.
Block parties, great. But if my child is not doing what he needs to do in school, and if you're not investing in their education,
right,
investing in the clothes and into the Xbox and things like that, I told a parent one time. She said her kid got in trouble, but he had just gotten a new Xbox system, and the child wanted to play with it. So the mother was like, so do I let him play with it, seeing that it was a gift from one of his relatives? I said, absolutely not.
That's right.
I said, so what our priorities have just been so screwed up and so misplaced. So we're going to allow our kids to invest in the clothing, into the entertainment, into the electronics, more so than the education.
Correct.
That's a problem. And like I said, relating it to money and to finance, that you rather just put your money into these things that it's not going to, the only benefit that child is going to get from that is, oh man, this is
right.
a nice Jordan.
You're right. That's exactly right.
That's it.
That's it.
There's nothing put in the bank off that compliment. And furthermore, we need to realize, and this is not to hit against the LeBrons of the world. I love LeBron. I'm a huge fan. I think he's a great example. At the same time, LeBron makes millions of dollars
Correct.
a year. He can afford that lifestyle. I can't.
Correct.
I make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year.
Right.
He has his shoes made for him. We don't.
Correct.
We have to go out and go buy the shoes. So we cannot live that type of lifestyle when we don't have the money that support it.
Correct.
You just can't. That's when you got to say, you know what? Let me get my priorities in order in what I can do.
Correct.
Stop reaching for the stars when the stars are not within your reach, especially financially. If you keep working and you get to a point to where you have prioritized and have things in order, get the shoes.
Correct.
I'm saying don't get the shoes. I'm just saying put it in priority.
No, it's correct. And see, for me, like everything that I do with the kids and sometimes our adults is a teachable moment. So a lot of times when the kid come in with the Jordan story or the LeBron or Kobe or whatever shoes they have on, that's whenever I start getting into this whole business end of it in terms of helping them understand what profit is about. So I'll start throwing questions at them like, okay, you just paid $200 for that pair of shoes. Do you have any idea how much it costs to make them? Kid look at me, no. So then we start getting into the small amount of what it costs to make them versus what they were sold for. And they're like, well, what? I said, have you ever heard of this word called profit? And then, so we get into a whole discussion then about the difference between what it costs to make them and what they sold them for in retail and wholesale. And so it's a teachable moment. But then a kid will leave there like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, see, that's why I say the finance has to be, somewhere in the curriculum because kids need to understand that.
We got to.
They
got to
may
do better with that.
Yes, and they may actually wind up helping their parents make better purchase decisions if they were understanding that based on what they learned in school. But I'm gonna shift because we're well into the interview and we're doing. I told you it goes by quickly and the conversation is good because they're connected in terms of what you wrote about the marriage and the finance. a lot of relationships have been shot down because of bad financial management.
Absolutely, and I know we've heard the stats regarding, the breakdown of what could break down a marriage, and I'd say a lot of my financial counterparts, financial educators, statistically, finance has caused, I'd say it was probably one of the top, if not the top, issue when it comes to financial disagreement.
Correct.
And sometimes through those financial disagreements, it leads to divorce or
Correct.
separation. And for me, I mean, in my experience regarding finance, and especially in a relationship and a marriage, you got two people coming together who may have different backgrounds and understanding of money.
Correct.
And you're trying to mesh together, as the Bible tells us, the two shall become one. And I believe a lot of this, we, men and women, in those relationship stages before they got married, did not talk about from a marriage standpoint, how they're going to operate their money. So what I did in my book is to put together, because it's a lot of activity. I mean, it touches on 4 different topics:
right,
family, finance, sex and intimacy. Oh my God, my mind just went blank then.
No, that's right. And you're hitting the major ones. I mean, because whenever we
and lifestyle,
right.
Yeah,
You hit the major ones right there, and generally, sex and money are 2 of the heaviest hitters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So here it is. You have 2 people trying to come together in a relationship, but you come from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different understandings of money. You might have one that is a great manager of money, and you have the other has no clue about money. Well, my thing is, these things need to be discussed before you walk down the aisle. You have to figure out, when my wife and I decided, we got engaged, and we went through premarital counseling.
Okay.
Now, we went through, when I say premarital counseling, I'm not talking about a counseling session. We went through sessions with an S. So we had to put everything out on the table. We had to do a budget together.
All right.
We had to, we talked about how much money we make. We talked about how much debt that we had. We talked about our mindset when it comes to shopping and when it comes to spending money. We talked about how we see our financial future. We talked about all these things, Mark, before we walked down the aisle. So it gave us a bird's eye view of who we talking about we're going to live together for the rest of our lives.
Right.
Because and we have this, we talk about it, my wife and I, there are some things that we're so glad we talked about before we got married, because it would have been an issue had we not discussed it early on. And one of those was money. You got to put out. We knew each other's credit report. We pulled credit reports, and we looked at our individual credit reports.
Wow.
You looked at mine. I looked at hers. So there was nothing to hide.
Right.
I wanted to put everything out on the table. She wanted to put everything out on the table, because we're going to be trying to pull this together and operate as one when we get married. And to me, that's the downfall a lot of times with couples today, and especially within our own community, African American community.
Right.
We don't talk about these things in the beginning. I don't know why. It's very important. It's been highlighted. You see the statistics.
Right.
You've seen people around you talk about and argue about money. I don't want that in my relationship. So let's just talk about it on the front end and let us grow together.
See, that's a good point.
I'm not willing to do that.
Another good point. You're right. I don't think, to the degree that you described, and I'm sure, pre-counseling or before marriage counseling, I'm sure it is what it is. But I don't know if many get that in depth. And maybe if more did, maybe on the back end, you would have less of the separations and the divorces. That's why I said I like your play on words early on between the words K-N-O-T and N-O-T.
Hey, Mark, I have to give those kudos to my wife
All right now.
for coming up. She came up with the title of the book, Sacred Vows. I did the book, but she came up with the title. And when she said the knot a knot, it kind of caught me off guard. I went, like, will you repeat that again? So it's so unique, Mark. On the front of the book, I have wedding bands tied with a knot
Right.
as the cover. And I said, okay, the knot to knot. So it's not to necessarily to determine whether you should get married or should you not get married. It's basically telling you, okay, these are some sacred things that we need to talk about if we're looking to get married.
Right.
And like I said, finance is one of those big things. And if you don't talk about it, you're gonna live it out, and it's the living out part that's causing such a ruckus.
Yeah, right. That's absolutely right.
And one thing I want to say, out of each one of these sections of the book, I have when I say activities, when I put together this book, I said I want something to where both parties will have to be involved
Right.
in it. So I have about 20 or 25 questions that each person must answer separately, and then they come together, on a scheduled time to go over their answers. Maybe get 3 a week or get 4 a week to talk about. How did you answer this question? Why did you answer that question like that? Now, if we get married, how can we live together in regards to that particular question? It's something as simple as what is your money story? How did you even learn about money? Tell me, how did your parents manage money when you were coming through? What's your mindset of handling credit? Do you know much about credit? Do you know how significant having good credit is? So these are some questions that I've designed to say, okay, we can sit down and we can talk about these things, and we can find out where we are and how we can mesh together going forward.
And see, the good thing about that is the book can be used as a discussion starter, because sometimes it's kind of just hard to start the discussion. So at least you give some questions to get the discussion going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I tell people, I said, use this as, you're doing premarital counseling. I said, now, don't let this replace premarital counseling.
Right.
But it will sure get you started in the dating stage. I mean, Lord forbid, I'm even saying this with my 16 and my 17-year-old daughters. But I know one day they're going to date and they're going to get married.
Right.
And be out on their own. I told both of them, don't worry about doing that. Just go to college, baby, get your education. Don't worry about boys right now. But I actually had them to read the book so they know about each one of these topics. So when they get into a relationship,
that's right,
and definitely, when they're looking to get married, they'll know what questions to ask their potential before they even walk down the aisle. Because you got to talk about it. Because I've actually done some financial counseling along the way as well.
Right.
There were couples that needed, they had marital issues as well as financial issues, but we were trying to address the financial issues. Well, some of those financial issues led really to marital issues. I remember a couple sitting at my table, and the wife, she was red as fire. I mean, she was like hot. And because the husband was doing some things financially that he thought was beneficial, that would be good. But the issue was he never told his wife what he was doing.
Absolutely.
She was hot.
I understand. I know she was.
Yeah, regardless if you made $1 million or if you were down by $500,000, right. The issue is
she didn't know.
Never talk. Yeah, right.
Right.
You didn't tell me.
Right.
You didn't tell me. You didn't talk about it. So my book and what I try to put forth with people, talk about money. If you're in a relationship, both of you need to be on the same page.
Absolutely.
You both need to understand how it works and how devastating that it can be in your marriage. A lot of times people think that the only type of infidelity is sexual infidelity.
Right.
Well, to me, there's a financial.
That's
infidelity.
correct. That's correct.
If you're hiding money from your spouse, or if you have credit cards and you're buying and purchasing things without letting your spouse know, that's financial infidelity.
Wow. See, again, another perspective. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's the same difference.
Mm-hmm.
Just a different area, but same difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, and then looking at our culture, African American culture.
Right.
And this is not. I'm just generalizing based upon the experiences that I've had. I don't want people sending me nasty grades.
Right. That's right.
So I say, my experience is that most of the women that I know, they love to shop. They love clothes. My wife, she loves what I call retail therapy.
Uh-huh.
She
That's
loves
right.
purses, she loves shoes, she loves shopping. She likes to, even if she doesn't come home with anything, she likes to get out there just for the hunt.
Right.
You watch National Geographic and you see the cat chasing down the antelope. That's my wife like that. She just likes to go in there, and do that. But you look at a lot of women like to buy things. Now, for the most part, men, we like toys. We
Right.
like the sound system. We like, if you like boating, you do your boating thing, or whatever your toy is, or whatever your activity is. Why not talk about it?
Right.
Why not say, I love surround sound system, especially when I'm watching a movie from home, Mark.
Right.
I've been trying to get my wife to get me Bose surround sound system. Now, anybody know Bose?
That's right. That's right.
So you know what I had to do? I said, okay, let me go look at what other sound systems that are out there. And this is no hit against Sony. I ended up buying a Sony system, but I paid probably $1,500 less.
Right.
It gives me the almost the exact same sound quality that I was looking for.
Right.
But had I gone out and bought that Bose system, brother, I can tell you there would have been some issues here in the house.
Right.
Because it's something that I like.
Right.
But had I not talked about it on the front end,
Right.
and vice versa with my wife. My wife goes out and she goes out and buys a $200 or $300 purse, and I just happen to stumble across it in the closet.
Right.
Or we're going somewhere. I go, baby, I've never seen that purse before. Oh, I got this like a month ago. Wow, you never said anything.
Uh-huh.
See, don't leave the door open to suspicion.
Right.
I lay it out.
Right.
Lay it out. And the wonderful thing about laying it out is you can develop your own plan of how you're going to operate with money going forward.
Right.
I talk about roles and responsibilities you have in relationships, that either the man is handling all the money or you might have the woman handling all the money. That should never be.
Correct.
Both should have a stake in the management of the household money.
Correct.
I believe that both have input. They both have opinion, suggestions about how best to operate money. It shouldn't be one-sided, because Lord forbid if something ever happens.
That's right.
If one person is doing it, you're going to point finger at that one person.
That's right.
And it's in a marriage. To me, the part of the purpose, or one of the priorities in a marriage, is winning together. Not having my wife win, and not just me winning. When we both win, the marriage is healthy.
Correct.
So when it's one-sided, where the one side is winning versus the other side, then there's a problem.
That's right. Absolutely.
So part of my book is to tackle some of those issues, which are the four main topics, but then it goes into those list of questions that would just generate conversation of where we are and where we need to be as a couple.
And see, let me go back to what I was saying about the reason, and the reason the title is Genius Title. You could tell your wife I said the title is genius.
Okay, I will.
And I'll tell you why, because again, I'm the language arts person, and so I interpret words. I hang on words. And when you start looking at the way the subtitle is, the not or not, that could be taken in more than one way, especially with the way you have your cover, your photos. That's the other thing I love, by the way, is whenever the photo matches the words. A lot of times, that when music videos first came out years ago, back in the 80s or late 70s, one of my pet peeves would be a music video that what was going on in the video had nothing to do with the lyrics. And the same holds true with me whenever I see a book cover that has absolutely nothing to do with the title. Your book has both. It has the picture as well as the words. And when I look at that, the not or not, I receive that two ways based on the picture. I see the knot that's holding the two wedding bands together. And generally, once the thing, unless you unknot it, knots don't come loose. So that's one way of meaning staying together. Then there's the other way of you can get knotted up. If things aren't going right, you can get knotted. You don't want to be in that kind of a knot. So whenever I'm looking at the knot or not, I'm looking at, okay, is this a knot that's going to stay? Are we going to stay knotted together in our marriage? Or is this a knot that we don't want to be in? We're all knotted up and tangled up, and it's a negative knot. So I love that title because it can work both ways. And in either way, one, yes, we do want our marriage to stay knotted. And two, we don't want to get in a knot.
Right. Absolutely. And it's going to take work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a finance guy. I teach it. I live it every day. But I am still learning. And I've learned some things from my wife.
Right.
I tell people often, you think that I'm good with money? My wife can teach a class when it comes to economic shopping. Oh, she can teach a class on that. As a matter of fact, I've had my wife on my show talking about how to shop.
Right.
If you tell me something, Mark, that you need to get, let my wife know first.
All right now. I know that's right.
Yeah, because our mindset, and I picked this up from her years ago. She said, baby, we're not looking to pay full price for anything.
Right.
If we can help it. and she will. I mean, I think that I'm tough sometimes, negotiating and things like that. You hadn't met anybody good negotiator. Mark, true story. We were in like Staples or one of the Office Depot, and there was a printer. This printer was already half price, and it was on clearance.
Right.
So so we went in and we were looking for a printer. So she looked at it. She said, asked the sales guy. She said, so well, what's the price? He said it was like $80 and $90, and on clearance. She said, $90? I'm not paying that. She said, that's not a clearance price. He said, ma'am, it's already marked half off. She said, will you please go get your manager? Manager comes back, and she said, I want to buy this printer. She said, you have two left, and I'm a customer, and I want to buy this printer right now. She said, but I'm not willing to pay $90 for this printer. And he said, ma'am, when it's already marked half off, it's a clearance price. She said, that's not a clearance price. She said, the clearance price should be a little bit lower than that. And the guy said, well, ma'am, we've already marked it down. We can't mark down anymore. She said, you mean to tell me you're going to let me walk out of this store all because you won't mark this printer down? He said, ma'am, it's already marked down. She said, no, I need this marked down a little bit lower than this. And he was like, ma'am, I can't do that. She said, come on, baby, let's go. He said, wait a minute.
That's right.
He said, so what? He said, what do you want? She said, will you give me $10 or $15 off? I'll buy it right now. He said, okay, we'll do that. Well, we walked out with a reduced clearance.
Right, a reduction on the reduction. That's right.
Exactly. Because a lot of times we don't. If you don't ask, you'll never know if you can.
That's right.
So we do a lot of that, but we're a great complement when it comes to the finance piece, and definitely when it comes to our marriage.
Right.
Being able to talk, being able to communicate, and even looking back, even at the book from time to time, to look back at some of those questions and say, hey, where are we? Are we still on the same page regarding this particular question or this particular issue? You know, and so we lay it all out on the table. And if we learn to be transparent,
right,
with each other, if we be transparent with ourselves, with money, we be transparent with our spouses, it only makes the relationship better.
Absolutely.
I've never known, because if I lay it out on the table, and even if it's a problem, we can go get help for the problem.
Right.
We can go get counseling, or we can go talk to another couple to see how we can get through this. But it's only when we become transparent with where we are, and only we know where we are, and begin to talk about these things. Lay it out on the table. You can plan. I tell people you can live the best life possible. And I'm an example of that. I'm living the best life possible right now with being married. We've gone through the issues with health, job loss, financial situation. We've gone through the whole gamut of different life events.
Right.
But we're still together strong because we have a good relationship, because we communicate well with each other. We lay our problems out on the table.
Right.
If the suggestions come from her, we win. If it comes from me, we win, because it's both of us that are being involved in the process.
I know that's right. Well, we've come down to the last part of our interview, and what I always do for the last part is I actually shut the mic button off and allow my guests to promote and market and shout out and all those things. You can say anything in terms of websites, phone numbers, email addresses. You can shout folks out. The only thing you can't say on the air is the dollar amount, because at that point, folks can call you and talk to you and negotiate that or learn about that. But so anything short of the dollar amount, I'm going to turn the mic off for the next couple of minutes, and it's yours to, again, let folks know how they can get a hold of Sacred Vows, the Not or Not, any of your workshops, seminars, sessions, financial services. This is your opportunity to promote. So I'm shutting the mic button off, and it's yours.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again, Mark, for the opportunity. And I want to say to all the listeners, it's been a privilege to be able to have this discussion with Mark here on the air, talking about finances and talking about marriage and talking about my book, Sacred Vows, The Not or Not. I wrote this book with the intent of helping couples from a relationship communication standpoint. And I would encourage you to utilize it in your life. If you're single people, single men, single women, it will be a great book to establish a foundation that early on of how to communicate when you get to that portion of your life. And for those couples that are engaged, this is a great tool to have. It will open the door of communication in your relationship in ways that you probably don't even see right now. You can get my book on my website. Let me say this first. You can go to my website at www.shipmanconsulting.com. That's SHIPMANCONSULTING.com. And you can request an autographed copy of the book from my website. But you can also get the book on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble. I would encourage you to invest in your relationship by investing in this book and investing time to do the work that is in the book. Now, in addition to the book, I am a financial and life empowerment consultant and speaker. I've been in finance and banking for a number of years, and I have some great workshops and seminars that I do for churches, for businesses, for schools as well. And I really have a huge heart and passion for high school students. So if you're high school teachers, educators out there, and you're needing to have or would love to bring in a good speaker, a great facilitator to talk about money, to talk about budgeting, to talk about life skills, these things that our children, our students need to have before they go into college or before they go into life beyond high school, I would love the opportunity to make an impact upon your school and upon your organization. Also for churches, to bring someone in to talk about finances, to relate it with biblical scripture, biblical sound principles of how to manage your money and making your money work for you. I would love the opportunity to do that as well. And if there are any seminars or conferences, any organization that would love to bring in an energetic speaker, I have a very diverse background. I can touch on banking, I can touch on entrepreneurship, I can touch on life skill training, or I can just touch on leadership as well. I would love and appreciate the opportunity to meet those needs in that arena as well. And I just want to say thank you so much to Mark for this opportunity to just for all of you to get to know who I am as a person and what I do in the area of speaking, what I do in the area of teaching, and even through my book. And lastly, I do have a financial radio show that I do every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called the Lionel Shipman Shape Your Finances Show. You can visit my website for details. For that show, I have a page dedicated for the show. My website, again, is www.shipmanconsulting.com. Click on the microphone, and it will take you to the show page. And you can see a gallery of all the different guests that I've had on the show and all of the various different topics that we have addressed. So I would love to connect with you as well on social media. You can reach me on Instagram, Facebook, what else? LinkedIn. I have my own YouTube channel as well. Like I said, my heart and passion is to help people improve their lives financially, but to also improve their lives in general. So please get in contact with me again. My website is www.shipmanconsulting.com. You can also send me an email or send me a message by clicking on the Contact Us page for any information regarding the seminars, regarding the book, or just to want to touch bases with me for any other type of services. So I would love to I would love the opportunity to help in any shape, form, or fashion with your school, with your business, or with your church.
All right, certainly a display of manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Oh,
I know that's right. I thank you so much for joining me this morning. I do record the show, and I send out an MP3 link to you as well as I put it up on my YouTube channel. I'm backed up by like 2 weeks. This will be my third show I need to get out. I have 2 guests that I need to get out to, and now yours. That's my third one. I need to get that done and get them out to you. But ultimately, it will wind up on my YouTube channel as well. I'll send you the MP3 link, and you are free to share that in any manner you wish, because once you get it, it's yours. However you want to promote with it, do what you will. But that'll be coming to you shortly. Like I said, I got 3 to do now, maybe over the weekend. And I got some days off next week, so definitely before the end of next week, and everybody will have theirs.
Oh, great, good. All right, good. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
Oh, man, I had a blast talking to you this morning. The topics are so necessary and so real. And again, they're worldwide, international topics. And the fact that we're 2 African-American men And the fact that we really, again, this is what the country need to understand, that just like you were saying in terms of marriage, like when the husband win and the wife win, that you both win. I mean, it's the same thing with racial. I mean, when one group wins, we all ought to win. So the fact that we're trying to uplift our group, we all win.
Right. Yes.
All right. So with that being said, I'll be in touch with you on the email to get things out to you. And again, share them in any way you want. Big shout outs to your wife and big shout outs to you and the family. And we'll be in touch.
Okay, Mark, I really appreciate it. And all the listeners, thank you so much for listening in.
All right. Take care. Have a wonderfully blessed weekend, week, year, life.
Same here, bro. Hey,